Chapter 21. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why don't you say anything? Let me tell you, don't try to lie to us. We have been secretly observing for the past few days. We can see clearly. You must know that kid, that the short and fat tomb robber held the dagger to his mouth, stretched out his tongue and licked the blade, and a wisp of blood slid down the blade, hissed that he quickly put away the dagger, took out a packet of powder from his pocket and poured it into his mouth. Did you hear that? Boy, PFFFF if you don't say it, PFFFF I'm going to do something I love to do. Hey, hey, hey. He asked, while the medicinal powder came out of his mouth. Qin Jiang's eyes turned and his gaze kept changing between the two of them. Suddenly, the corners of his eyes slightly curved, a smile appeared, and his palm touched the hilt of Heishui's knife. Is it Qin Jiang you two brothers are looking for? He asked with a smile. The short and fat tomb robber tilted his head and raised his chin. Yes. He, I knew you must know him. Qin Jiang laughed when he heard this. Yes, I know him. This guy is a pervert. If nothing else, he should be looking for a woman in Yinan Garden now. Are you his friends? How about I take you there? With that said, he walked towards the short, fat tomb robber and said to himself that it was a pity. He originally planned to reach the first level by himself. In sight, the potential panel appeared. Current martial arts 0.5 Qigong of immortality, first level, 4/250, iron arm fist, not yet started, 32/100. Potential points, 7.7, the potential point increased by 0.1, which was absorbed from the strange beast jade pendant. He shook his head and said, potential, add more points, iron arm fist. Iron arm fist, not yet started, 32/100, experience value plus 70. Iron arm fist, not yet started. Is upgraded to iron arm fist, first level. Iron arm fist, first level, 2/200. Potential points, 7.0. In an instant, an inner chi as thick as a chopstick emerged from the body, and a subtle crackling sound came from everywhere in the body. The injuries suffered during the day's practice were completely recovered, and the arms glowed with a light grayish-white under the moonlight. Feeling the power of his body and the surging inner energy, he couldn't help but sigh. It was indeed a true martial art. It was only the first level and the inner energy had already been generated. He looked behind Iron Arm Fist and saw that the experience points required to advance were only 200, which was a little less than the 5 Qigong of immortality. From this point of view, perhaps the quality of Chongqing 5 Qigong is better than Iron Arm Fist, but in terms of power, the Iron Arm Fist far exceeds the 5 Qigong of immortality. After all, the 5 Qigong of immortality is a health-preserving skill, and it is more focused on recovery and durability than fighting. Opposite him, the short and fat tomb robber smiled with satisfaction and nodded. He knew that this boy had already become a disciple of a real warrior. If possible, he did not want to provoke a local warrior. It's quite sensible. When we find Qin Jiang, we will finish the work and there will be many rewards. The smile on Qin Jiang's face became even bigger, and the energy in the iron arm fist gathered towards his right arm. Thank you very much. The sword flashed like lightning in the night, cutting through the darkness and slashing through the neck of the short, fat tomb robber in an instant, without any time to react. Blood spurted out and splashed onto Qin Jiang's body and the alleyway wall behind him. The short, fat tomb robber froze on the spot, staring blankly at the scattered blood stains in front of him. It was like a bloody blade slashed through the man in front of him, half of his face stained red, and he looked like an evil ghost seeking life under the moonlight. Aha! He wanted to shout loudly, but his leaky throat and chopped vocal cords prevented him from saying even a single word. A dizzy feeling came to his head, his vision began to blur, and his body was clearly not moving, but he felt like he was shaking. Qin Jiang took out the knife again and pierced the heart of the short and fat tomb robber. At the same time, he held the other person's neck and said with a chuckle, "Don't be nervous. Take a deep breath. It's normal to feel dizzy." The short, fat tomb robber's head was leaning on Qin Jiang's arms, and blood was pouring out of his mouth and neck, but his body was tightly imprisoned and he could not move. Qin Jiang's arms moved slightly, and the inner air shredded the internal organs along the black water blade. After a few breaths, the short and fat tomb robber finally gave up his struggle, and his body gradually went limp. Tap tap tap. The tall and thin tomb robber on the other side of the alley came over and looked at the two people hugging each other dully. Since Qin Jiang's body was thicker than that of the short and fat tomb robber, it just blocked his sight, so the tall and thin tomb robber could not see what was going on. "Are you kissing?" he asked quietly. After saying that, he suddenly saw a slight light on the wall. He looked at it carefully and was stunned for a moment before realizing that it was blood. "Oh, that's not good." He stood there, seeming to be thinking about something. Two of his bosses died. According to common sense, he should run away. Immediately, he turned around and ran straight into the distance. Aha! In the night, a cold light illuminated the alley for a moment, and a fierce sword struck at the tall and thin tomb robber. The tall and thin tomb robber tilted his head and slid his body to the right, like water patterns. The next moment, his body quickly shrank and turned into a hamster the size of a fist, with yellow and white fur all over his body, shiny and smooth. Whoosh! Its speed suddenly increased a lot, and it turned into a ray of yellow light and shot out quickly, rushing over 10 meters in the blink of an eye. Monster! Transformation into a monster. Qin Jiang's heart trembled, and then he used his inner energy to gather his right arm, grasped the handle of the black water knife tightly, and made a throwing motion. Call out. The black water was thrown out violently, turning into a black line, cutting through the air and making a whistling sound, and its speed was much faster than that of the hamster spirit. Just as the blade was about to pierce into the hamster spirit's head, the hamster spirit screamed, and a puff of blood mist exploded from its body, and its speed increased again. Swish! The tearing sound of cutting through the fur was heard, and the black water penetrated into the ground and sank directly into the handle. The figure of the hamster spirit rolled on the ground, splitting in half from the belly down, but no blood flowed out. Qin Jiang's figure moved forward at a very fast speed, picked up the black water, and without any delay, threw it out with great force. The hamster spirit only had time to shake its head, and before it was fully awake, it was nailed to the ground. It opened its mouth, spit out a string of blood beads, and immediately fell silent. Qin Jiang walked forward, did not pull out the black water, but twisted the handle a few times, and pulled it out after confirming that the hamster spirit was dead. He shook his head slightly. The body of the hamster spirit was too weak, even weaker than the two fox spirits he had encountered in Dahe Mountain before. It seems that whether or not to transform has little to do with strength. Perhaps there is some special method. Looking at the scattered blood beads, the blood beads fell on the ground and were stained with dust, but did not disperse. Instead, they became small red balls with a strong sense of glue. Picked up a grain and squeezed it with his hand. It was very elastic. Not blood. He looked at the dozen blood beads at his feet. After thinking about it, he still did not put them away. He took out the fire and ignited them. He carried the body of the hamster spirit back to the body of the short and fat tomb robber and threw it away. He squatted down and turned over the body of the short and fat tomb robber, and found a secret book called Earth Dragon Body, as well as some silver notes and broken silver, about 40 or 50 taels. What he cared about most was a token. The material seemed to be copper, but it was very light. The front was written with Zhenwu Pavilion, and the back was embossed with a dead locust tree. Zhenwu Pavilion? Never heard of it. He tried to bend the token, but even with all his strength, it didn't deform at all. Put the token on the ground and draw out the black water. Clang. He chopped the token with a knife, but it didn't cause any damage, not even a scratch. He picked up the token and gently brushed off the dust. Good treasure. If it is used to forge a knife, it must be a magic weapon. Puff. The black water inserted into the ground, and after a few strokes, it formed a palm-sized 2-foot-deep pit, and threw the token into it to bury it. Although it is a good thing, who knows if there is any backhand on it. Zhenwu Pavilion, you know it's not easy to mess with it just by hearing the name. If it is exposed because of a token, it will be more than worth the loss. He took a look at the corpse on the ground and took out a porcelain bottle from his pocket. Corpse water, for 2 people. Chapter 22:20 Practices. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Jiang stroked the porcelain bottle. The reason why he carried some with him was actually to deal with emergencies like tonight. It was not because he was afraid of the government's investigation. After all, this was not the inner city. At this time, the government would not care about the security of the outer city. Unless too many people died at one time, they would arrange for people from the government to come. He was mainly afraid that the people of Zhenwu Pavilion would find out something. If they found some clues and found him, he didn't think he could deal with the entire Zhenwu Pavilion by himself. He squatted down, tore off half of the sleeves of the corpse, and then poured the corpse water on the corpse. Suddenly, a corrosion sound was heard. In less than a quarter of an hour, the two corpses disappeared without a trace. Qin Jiang nodded slightly. The corpse water developed by the old doctor was colorless and tasteless, and it could even corrode clothes. It was really easy to use. He rolled the half sleeve in his hand into a short stick, poured some corpse water on his head, and then wiped it on the blood splashing around before the sleeve was corroded. After a moment, he threw down the sleeve in his hand, which had been corroded for most of the time, until it was completely corroded, and then he turned around and left after confirming that there was nothing left. Not long after he left, a figure appeared at the end of the alley, looking at the direction Qin Jiang left with a somewhat inexplicable look in his eyes. Good boy. Although the technique was a bit rough, it did not leave any useful information. Walking out of the shadows, the moonlight illuminated his face. It was Wang Minglang. He had already noticed the presence of the two tomb robbers before Qin Jiang left. However, at that time he thought they were enemies looking for revenge on him. Until the two followed Qin Jiang and left, he knew that the other party's target was Qin Jiang. He was worried, so he followed, and then he saw the scene just now. Cautious enough, but obviously not experienced enough. Walk over, collect the remains of the blood beads, and then dig out the token. Zhenwu Pavilion? Why haven't you heard of it? He frowned slightly. He was the former leader of the Red Tiger Gang. If he had never heard of it, then either the Zhenwu Pavilion was a secret organization or the other party was very powerful. It was even related to the power of the prefecture. No matter which one, it was not easy to mess with. TSK, how did Xiao Jiang get involved with such a power? After cleaning up all the traces, he looked at the token in his hand. He had to find a dirty and remote place to throw it away. Shan Man Lu. Qin Jiang did not go through the back door, but climbed over the wall into the backyard. He got a bucket of water and soaked in it. Why is the water so cold? He raised his arm and looked at the goose bumps on his arm. He stroked it gently and his skin became smooth. However, it felt quite comfortable. After cleaning the blood stains, he came out of the bucket and directly used his internal energy to steam the water stains. Sitting at the table, he reflected on the battle tonight. He should not have cut the first knife directly, which would easily cause blood to spurt out. He should change it to stabbing or piercing next time, and the hamster spirit should have used all his strength at the beginning. If the last knife had missed, the other party might have escaped. After reflecting for a moment, he picked up the earth dragon body that had just been placed on the table and flipped through it. This is also a real martial art. According to its introduction, it is a bodybuilding martial art, but he remembered that the short and fat tomb robber had his throat cut by him, so his expectations for earth dragon body were lowered a bit. The strength of the short and fat tomb robber was already that of a real martial artist, which means that he had at least practiced the first level of the earth dragon body. But when his black water cut through the other party's throat, he didn't feel any obstruction. However, he didn't intend to throw it away, and continued to flip through the secret book. The more he flipped through it, the more speechless he felt. It was really an earth dragon body. He thought it was that kind of earth dragon, but he didn't expect it to be a fucking earthworm. What a bullshit earth dragon body. It's clearly an earthworm body. It is called body training. Yes, it is, but it does not increase the strength of the body, but increases the flexibility of the body and the level of energy accumulation. In other words, it can increase the volume of fat storage. No wonder they practice this kind of skills. On weekdays, they may have to stay underground for half a month to dig graves. Increasing the volume of fat is no problem. Increasing the flexibility of the body to pass through some narrow passages is no problem. This earth dragon body is really suitable for tomb robbers. Putting down the earth dragon body, he looked at the panel. Current martial arts, Eternal 5 Qigong, first level, 4/250, Iron Arm Fist, first level, 2/200, Earth Dragon Body, not yet started, 3/100. Potential points, 7.0, Good Guy, it is still a martial art that is not worse than iron arm fist. Thinking of the disgusting training methods recorded in Earth Dragon Body, he still suppressed the idea of practicing. Potential, add points, Earth Dragon Body. Earth Dragon Body, not yet started, 3/100, experience plus 100. Earth Dragon Body, not yet started, is upgraded to Earth Dragon Body, first level. Earth Dragon Body, first level, 3/200. Potential points, 6.0. As the points were added, a subtle internal energy was born from the body, which was clearly different from the internal energy of the iron arm fist. At the same time, a feeling of distension came from all parts of the body. The next moment, the subtle internal energy that had just been born spread outward along the meridians and diffused in the flesh and skin, just like the previous Chongqing 5 Qigong. The feeling of distension disappeared. Qin Jiang stood up, waved his fists casually, and performed various moves. After a moment, he stood up with his fists closed, with a hint of joy on his face, although the improvement was not great. His strength was indeed stronger, and the Earth Dragon Body mainly improved the flexibility of the fascia. As for the volume of fat storage, he had no plans to experiment with it for the time being. In general, Earth Dragon Body can be regarded as a martial art similar to yoga. It does not improve much in frontal combat, but it can reduce the damage to oneself during practice, and can also make one's moves smoother and more fluent. Perhaps, in a life and death duel, just a more fluent move is enough to determine the outcome. It is enough to temporarily improve to the first level. After the iron arm fist is practiced to the third level, he will consider improving the Earth Dragon Body. After all, that kind of maggot-like training method really makes him a little. The next morning, Qin Jiang came to Wang Minglang's yard early to practice iron arm fist. At this time, no one came to the yard, only Li Bo was guarding the gate. "Brother Jiang is here. He promised me yesterday that we would have a drink together. I have reserved a seat at Shanmenlu. How about noon?" Li Bo saw Qin Jiang coming and hurried to meet him. Qin Jiang smiled and said, "Brother Bo is polite. Let's do noon. Anyway, he only needs one morning to complete the 14 exercises, and it's just right to eat when he goes back." Practicing martial arts, not only practice, but also eat more. If you don't have enough nutrition, it's easy to ruin your body. Walked to the yard, applied the secret medicine for arm training, and hit a wooden stake in front of him, with constant bangs. After a long time, the rest of the students also came and began to practice iron arm fist, but all of them were using wooden stakes, not a single iron stake. After a while, everyone around had stopped, only Qin Jiang was still practicing 6 arms. After a while, Qin Jiang also stopped. His arms were already red and swollen, and even blood was faintly visible. He opened the jar of the secret medicine for washing arms and applied the liquid on his arms. Suddenly, he felt a cool feeling, which made him take a deep breath. Several students around him looked at Qin Jiang as if he was a freak. "Lao Lin, have you checked? How many times?" "I don't know. I have seen more than 15 times. Hey, you didn't come yesterday? Let me tell you, this guy completed 14 exercises yesterday. And he completed them in one breath. If he divided it into 2 exercises in the morning and evening, he might be able to complete 16 or even 18 exercises. So many. Is this the world of geniuses?" After the liquid dried up, Qin Jiang wiped the sweat from his forehead, looking at the panel. Iron arm fist, first level, 15 to 200. Increased by 13 points, but in fact he had completed 20 exercises. He overlooked 1 point, that is, after practicing the first level of iron arm fist, his physical body became stronger. So the effect of practice weakened, resulting in 2 or even 3 exercises to increase 1 experience point at the beginning. However, he also discovered that the more he pushed his body to its limits, the more experience points he gained from each practice. At the 20th practice, he gained 3 points. Li Bo, who was standing outside the door, opened his mouth slightly and looked straight at Qin Jiang, his eyes full of confusion. "Xiao Bo, what are you looking at?" Wang Minglang's voice sounded, and Qin Jiang looked over and saw the other party standing in front of the courtyard gate with a dusty look. Chapter 23 Medicinal Bath. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing Wang Minglang's voice, Li Bo came back to his senses, but still couldn't hide the shock in his eyes. 20 exercises. Doesn't he know what pain is? This is 20 exercises. Even if he has now practiced the second level of Iron Arm Fist, he can never do this. That kind of heart-piercing pain is definitely not something that ordinary people can bear. Especially when he knows that it will hurt to hit him, he can still do this step. He is definitely a ruthless person. A ruthless person who is especially ruthless to himself. He couldn't help but think that Li Lang would kowtow to Qin Jiang to apologize. Snap, snap. What's wrong? I'm asking you a question. Wang Minglang spoke. He didn't see the process of Qin Jiang practicing Iron Arm Fist, but thought he had completed daily training. Li Bo swallowed his saliva when he heard it. Master Wang, just now, Brother Jiang completed 20 exercises. Huh? Wang Minglang looked at Li Bo and tilted his head. What the hell? I mean, just now, Qin Jiang, Brother Jiang, completed 20 exercises. Li Bo said again. Suck. Wang Minglang's eyes widened, and Li Bo's words were like thunder in his ears. Without stopping, he strode towards Qin Jiang. When he got close, he wanted to pull up Qin Jiang's arm, but when he saw the layer of medicine, he stopped and bent down, with his head close to Qin Jiang's arms. He looked like he wanted to dig out his eyeballs and stick them on. Something is wrong, it must be 12 points wrong. He muttered to himself, feeling more and more wrong. How could I not understand the Iron Arm Fist that I created myself? No one should be able to practice it for 20 times. Let alone 20 times, even if you practice the Iron Arm Fist to the third level, it is at most 16 times. That kind of pain is unimaginable unless you experience it yourself. There is no way. The Zhenwu in the Red Tiger gang is not allowed to be passed on to others, so he can only create a Zhenwu to sell for money. Therefore, although it did not improve his strength, he would try it himself. He couldn't make up a story about Zhenwu that he couldn't practice, right? Can you still lift your arm? He asked. Qin Jiang raised his arm directly, and then replied affirmatively, yes. Lift it for a while. As he said that, Wang Minglang looked up at Qin Jiang's armpit, observed carefully for a moment and showed an understanding expression. Standing up straight, he put one hand behind his back, stroked his beard with the other hand and smiled. Sure enough, you have already practiced the first level. As soon as the voice fell, several students around him exploded. Practice the first level? How is this possible? Yes. Didn't you just learn it yesterday? One day to practice it. Wrong. Not one day. It's one night. Several students looked at Qin Jiang at the same time, with shock, confusion, and a trace of fear in their eyes, which was an inexplicable fear of an incomprehensible existence. Wang Minglang looked at Qin Jiang with a look of relief. Last night, they were far away, and Qin Jiang threw the bodies away after killing the two guys, which made it impossible for him to judge the specific strength of the two tomb robbers. In this way, the man and the demon should also have the strength of real warriors, but when he thought of this, he felt a sense of frustration for no reason. As the founder of the Iron Arm Fist, he couldn't do Qin Jiang's level, which was really embarrassing. Tsk, this kid's talent is not inferior to his sister by half. I really don't know how good he is. Okay, don't look at it, do what you should do. Xiao Jiang, come in with me. He waved his hand and walked towards the main house. The two came to the main house. Wang Minglang closed the door, and the room suddenly darkened, but there was still sunlight coming in from the window, so it was not dark. He walked in front of Qin Jiang. Raise your arms. Qin Jiang raised his arms, and the cool feeling of the arm-washing secret medicine gradually subsided, and the surface of his arms felt warm. Raise your arms after applying the secret medicine for washing your arms to speed up the absorption of the medicine. As he spoke, Wang Minglang stretched out his hands and pinched Qin Jiang's shoulder blades on both sides. Suddenly, a shock burst out from his fingertips, and Qin Jiang only felt his arms slightly numb. After a breath, Wang Minglang retracted his hands with doubts in his eyes. No hidden injuries. Even the internal fascia is very elastic, stronger than his own. You didn't take a medicinal bath, how can you have no hidden injuries? You know, the medicinal bath method of the iron arm fist is the core of this martial art. When he created the iron arm fist, it was based on this medicinal bath prescription. It can be said that the medicinal bath came first, and then the iron arm fist. And this medicinal bath method can only be used after the body is on the verge of the limit. The closer to the limit, the better the effect. Not only can it repair the body, but it also takes the meaning of breaking and then building, destroying the old, creating a new life, and achieving a transformation. Of course, the prescription for creating a new life is just bragging. There are at least 80 people who have taken medicinal baths under him, not to mention 100, and none of them have achieved the so-called transformation. Basically, they have only been slightly strengthened, and the main function is to eliminate hidden injuries. Qin Jiang put down his arms after hearing this. It may be because of the 5 animals play. I learned the 5 animals play with Dr. Baiyun before. After practicing it, the body's recovery speed has increased a lot. If there is no 5 animals play, it should not be possible to practice it for 20 times. Wang Minglang nodded slightly. I see. I know that Wu Qin Shi is a kind of health-preserving skill. It should be that Wu Qin Shi stimulates your own talent, so it can achieve this effect. After saying that, he walked to the bed, picked up the smoking gun and lit it. However, the advantages accumulated by Wu Qin Shi only stop here. You have to be open-minded and work hard. I understand. Qin Jiang responded. Okay, go to the west room and get ready. I'll give you a medicinal bath later. Wang Minglang said. After thinking about it, he curled his lips again. It's free. Then do it every half a month until you reach the 3rd level. Before taking a medicinal bath, you must first reach your current state. The closer you get to the limit, the effect will be better. Qin Jiang nodded. I understand, Uncle Wang. After coming out of the main room, the students couldn't help but look at him, but they didn't take the initiative to say hello. Li Bo came over, raised his hand and wanted to put it on Qin Jiang's shoulder, but after thinking about it, he put down his arm and said with a smile, Brother Jiang, let's go. I asked the boss to prepare a tough dish. Qin Jiang smiled and said, we have to wait a while. Uncle Wang said that we are going to take a medicinal bath and asked me to go to the west room to prepare. Li Bo's expression changed when he heard this. Medicinal bath? TSK, no, I have to go there quickly. Don't stew my hard vegetables. With that said, he turned around and was about to leave, but Qin Jiang grabbed him. The huge force caught Li Bo off guard and caused him to stumble. Are medicinal baths troublesome? He asked. Li Bo glanced at Qin Jiang in surprise. What a strength. This is after 20 practices. Are you born with supernatural powers? It's not troublesome at all. The main reason is that the soaking time is very long. It takes 3 to 5 hours. Okay, I won't say more. See you in the evening. Li Bo patted Qin Jiang's hand and left quickly. Qin Jiang looked at Li Bo's back, turned and walked towards the west room. As soon as I opened the door and walked in, I smelled a strong medicinal aroma, which was a little bitter, but more like an aroma similar to sesame oil. Looking inside the room, a large copper vat was located in the center. There was a shelf on the left wall with various kinds of herbs, about 20 kinds of them. There is a sink more than 1 meter above the ground on the right side. Under the sink are several stone utensils for preparing medicinal materials. There are very few types, much less than those in the old doctor's backyard. Walking to the sink and washing the medicine off his arms, he glanced at the panel again. Iron arm fist, 1st floor, 15/200. I wonder how effective this medicinal bath can be, and how many days of hard work can it be worth. Less than a quarter of an hour later, Wang Minglang walked in and said, Stop standing, take off your clothes and sit in the tank. Chapter 24 Shishi River, Golden Scale Fish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Jiang was stunned when he heard this. Take off your clothes. Wang Minglang took a puff from his big pipe, blew out a cloud of white smoke, and grinned. A young man still cares about this? There are no outsiders, so what are you afraid of? Just the 2 of us. Qin Jiang's eyes moved back and forth, and he nodded with some confusion. Okay then. After saying that, he started to take off his clothes directly. Hey, are you really taking it off? I'm just kidding, just take off your upper body. The medicinal bath is for your arms, not your legs. Wang Minglang quickly raised his hand to stop him. Suck. Qin Jiang took a deep breath, silently took off his upper body clothes, and jumped directly into the copper vat. Hey, do you think I'm smart? I knew from the beginning that I had to use a copper vat. If I replaced it with a porcelain vat, I would have been trampled to pieces countless times. Wang Minglang held a big smoking gun in his mouth and used a long pipe to draw water from the sink into the copper tank. After a while, the water in the copper vat had covered Qin Jiang's shoulders, leaving only his head exposed. No longer pouring water, Wang Minglang walked to the shelf on the left, grabbed a few herbs, walked to the right, picked up the mortar and started pounding the medicine. After a while, several herbs were pounded into paste. He walked to the copper vat with the mortar and said, "Raise your arm." Qin Jiang raised his arms. He directly grabbed the medicinal paste and applied it to Qin Jiang's arms. In just a few seconds, the paste formed a soft shell on his arms. "Okay, let it go," he said. When his arms were submerged in the water, a chemical reaction suddenly seemed to occur, and the body temperature of his arms rose rapidly. Wang Minglang walked aside, took out a porcelain bottle from the secret compartment, walked to the copper vat and poured water into it. It was a yellow liquid. In an instant, a layer of yellow mist evaporated along with a pungent smell. At the same time, the clear water was quickly dyed light yellow, and the heat in the arms quickly climbed up and became scorching hot. Not idle, Wang Minglang walked to the medicine shelf and pressed a button. A rushing sound of wind appeared under the copper cylinder, and flames burned in the blink of an eye. Only then did Qin Jiang discover that there was a fire tunnel underneath the copper vat. The water temperature in the copper vat gradually increased. Wang Minglang picked up a few fresh herbs from the medicine shelf and came to the copper vat. After you have mastered the first level, you should have felt the presence of inner energy. In the next few hours, you must try your best to control the inner energy in your body to stay in your arms. Hearing this, Qin Jiang closed his eyes and controlled the inner energy in his body to flow into his arms. The hot feeling became more intense as the temperature of the water in the copper cylinder rose. Fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead, and as time continued to pass, Wang Minglang threw individual herbs into the copper vat from time to time. After an unknown amount of time, Qin Jiang could no longer sense the change of time. He could only feel his arms becoming increasingly hot, and in the end, he even felt like he was being roasted. After a long time, it became dark outside the window, and Wang Minglang wiped the sweat from his forehead. He looked at Qin Jiang. This was Qin Jiang. If it were anyone else, he wouldn't be so dedicated. Otherwise, there is nothing else to do day by day. After a moment, Qin Jiang opened his eyes, and a faint light flashed away. He looked into the copper tank. The originally light yellow water had turned into dark green, and the burning sensation in his arms had disappeared, replaced by a warm and cool feeling. "Okay, come out, I have something to tell you." Wang Minglang sat on a stool nearby, crossing his legs and smoking a big pipe. Qin Jiang jumped out of the copper vat, activated the internal energy to evaporate the water, and put on his clothes. "What's the matter?" Suck. Wang Minglang took a puff from his pipe and slowly exhaled. "I saw what happened last night." Qin Jiang's eyes changed slightly when he heard this. "Did you see it?" Wang Minglang nodded slightly. "Well, your experience is still a bit lacking, so I've taken care of it for you. If something like this happens again in the future, you don't have to hide it from me. By the way, just pretend you have never seen these 3 words Jinyu Pavilion. If anyone asks you in the future, you will say you don't know." Qin Jiang nodded slightly. "I understand." Wang Minglang smiled happily. "Okay, let's go back." After walking out of Wang Mingliang's yard, Qin Jiang looked back, turned around and left silently. On the way back to Shanmenlu, he looked at the panel. Current martial arts. 5 Qigong of Immortality, first level, 9/250, Iron Arm Fist, first level, 65/200, Earth Dragon Body, first floor, 3/200. Potential points, 6.1. The Jade Pendant has absorbed some more potential points, and the experience value of Iron Arm Fist has increased by 50. The effect of the medicinal bath can be said to be very outstanding. calculating this, it saves at least 7 days of hard work. Brother Jiang, Brother Jiang. In the distance, a shout came, and at the other end of the street, Li Bo waved his arms and walked quickly. I calculated that the time was almost up, and sure enough it turned out. He said with a smile. Qin Jiang suddenly remembered what Li Bo said during the day. Li Bo straightened his clothes and said, "Let's go, Brother Jiang. The dishes are already being prepared." Qin Jiang nodded. "Well, I happen to be hungry." When the two came to Shanman building, Li Lang was already waiting outside the building. When he saw the two of them, he waved quickly. Brother Qin, you are here." Li Bo nodded and looked at Qin Jiang. Xiaolang was a little reckless that day. "Let him make an apology to you tonight." Qin Jiang smiled and said, "You're welcome." After walking into Shanman building, the three of them walked up to the second floor. Li Lang called the waiter, "It's time to go up." The waiter wiped the table and responded. He looked at Qin Jiang, who was being escorted up to the second floor with some surprise. He didn't expect that the distinguished guest mentioned by Master Li was actually Qin Jiang. Going up to the second floor, the three of them walked into a private room. The aroma of various dishes made Qin Jiang's appetite grow. Qin Jiang looked at the dishes on the table. There were a total of 16 dishes, with a combination of meat and vegetables, and they were delicious. This table alone was worth 3 taels of silver. It was more valuable than his jade pendant. The three of them sat down, and Li Bo raised his hand slightly. "Brother Jiang, try it quickly." The chef of this Shanmanlu was originally the chef of a restaurant in the inner city. Later, he owed money for gambling and had his legs broken. That's why he fell to the outer city. As he said that, he looked at Li Lang. "Go and urge him." Li Lang nodded slightly, got up and left. Qin Jiang was not polite. He picked up the meat slices and started eating. It tasted salty and spicy. After a while, Li Lang came in with a plate and put it on the table. It was a carp with golden scales all over its body. "Brother Jiang, this is a golden scale fish, a rare species in Shishi River. On weekdays, this one has to sell for 10 taels of silver. I heard that it is good for the body. Come and try it and see how it tastes." Li Bo said with a smile. He got this from the inner city with the help of his connections, and it cost more than 10 taels of silver. Qin Jiang raised his eyebrows slightly. Shishi River was the river where people fished when Heishan City was still a fishing village. It runs across the east and west of the city and passes through the inner city. It seems to be a source of Canglan River, the largest river in Yenzhou, and golden scale fish is a specialty of Shishi River. It is said that it was once sent to the capital as a tribute. Pick up a piece of fish meat and put it in your mouth. It is smooth and tender, full of freshness and fragrance, and perfectly retains the original aroma of the ingredients. This chef's skills are amazing. After eating the fish meat, a warm current flows from the stomach into the limbs and bones. This feeling is like being massaged. He looked at the panel, and the experience points of the 3 martial arts increased a little, especially the Chongqingwu Qigong, which increased by 4 points directly. His eyes were surprised. It seemed that if he had time, he could go to the Shishi River to have a look. It would be nice to improve the food occasionally. It tastes very good. You guys should try it too. 10 days later, in the backyard of Shanmanlu, Qin Jiang wiped the sweat off his upper body and applied the arm-washing secret medicine on his arms. "Master Qin, your meal is ready. I'll put it here for you." The servant in the building put the dish in his hand on the table in the yard with some flattery. Ever since the owner of Shanmanlu knew that Qin Jiang was a person that Li Bo had to treat with courtesy that night, he used wooden boards to enclose a separate area in the backyard, which was specially used for Qin Jiang to practice martial arts. On the one hand, for the owner of Shanmanlu, Li Bo was already a big shot, so Qin Jiang naturally needed no further explanation. On the other hand, he was also afraid that some drunken diners would not have eyes to bump into Master Qin. Those who can come to Shanmanlu for dinner are basically the rich and powerful people in the outer city. It is not a good thing to annoy any of them. "Okay, sorry for the trouble," Qin Jiang said with a smile. No trouble, sir, you eat well. I will come back to collect the dishes later." The servant bent his body slightly, retreated from the wooden door opened in the wall, and closed the wooden door casually. Qin Jiang walked to the table and sat down, looking at the panel. Current martial arts, Eternal Life 5 Qigong, first level, 20/250, Iron Arm Fist, first level, 199/200, Earth Dragon Body, first level, 10/200. Potential points, 6.8. Chapter 25 Banquet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the panel, Qin Jiang frowned slightly. In fact, the experience value of Iron Arm Fist had reached 199 the day before yesterday, but he could not break through this point. He was also hesitating whether to use his potential points to make a breakthrough, but in these 10 days, the potential points provided by that jade pendant have been significantly reduced, perhaps not reaching 2 points these days. He has also been looking for artifacts on the market that may contain potential points, but so far he has found nothing. He also visited places like mass graves, but he didn't gain anything. Potential points were not easily generated. If he had to look for it on his own, it would still be too slow. I have to find time to go to Yuan Li's home. Sighing, if today's medicinal bath can't make him break through, then he can use his potential points. He can't keep using them up, since his rebirth, whether it was spirits, the Huangtian sect, or the trick spoken by the old doctor's old love demon, they all made him feel very insecure. Shaking his head slightly, he swallowed the food on the table. Different from when he practiced Wu Qin Shi, after practicing Iron Arm Fist, his appetite increased greatly. This meal alone was enough to equal the food intake of the previous whole day. After a moment, he wiped the liquid off his arms, revealing his strong, slightly gray skin. The effect of the old doctor's bronze elixir has also weakened as he practiced these days. However, he no longer feels that weak. Now he is tall and muscular, not much worse than brotherly Lang. Master Qin. The boy who had just delivered the food opened the door and stuck his head out. What's wrong? Qin Jiang asked. The boy walked in and said, the owner of Lu's blacksmith shop just sent a message, saying that their owner asked you to come over. Qin Jiang was a little surprised. Louisa. What is he looking for me for? I see. The boy responded, packed up the dishes and left. Qin Jiang also put on his clothes and went out. After walking around for a while, he still found nothing, so he went directly to Lu's blacksmith shop. Master, you are here. My boss has already given instructions. You can just go to the backyard. I am here. It was still the same boy, and he never knew his name. When they arrived at the backyard, Louisa stood in the middle of the yard with his hands behind his hands. He held a 4-meter gun on 2 iron piers in front of him, which was as thick as a baby's arm. The whole body was pitch black, with flame-like blood-red lines, especially the tip of the spear, which looked like it was dripping blood. Brother Qin. Come on, come on. That when Louisa saw Qin Jiang coming, he waved excitedly, unable to hide his joy. Qin Jiang walked closer and looked at the big gun. Is this the blood flame golden gun you mentioned? Louisa smiled and nodded, exactly. But it hasn't been sharpened and final tempered yet, but even so, it is a rare magic weapon. I dare say that there is no big gun that can compare with it in the entire Black Mountain City. As he said that, he looked at Qin Jiang. How's it going? Do you want to try it? Qin Jiang raised his eyebrows and smiled. Why not? After saying that, he directly grasped the handle of the blood flame golden gun with his right hand and lifted it with a slight force. Kang! The blood flame golden gun was lifted a little and then fell heavily, making a sound of gold and iron clashing. Qin Jiang looked at the bloody golden gun in his hand with some surprise. It was so heavy. At least it weighs 100 pounds. Holding the handle of the gun with both hands, he exerted force suddenly, lifted the blood flame golden gun, jumped a few steps, and waved it directly. Woo! Woo! Although there was no plan, just relying on Qin Jiang's strength at this time and the weight of the blood flame golden gun itself, it looked like a powerful force. Bang! After a while, Qin Jiang placed the blood flame golden gun on the iron pillar and panted slightly. The gun was too heavy, and it was difficult for him to use it. Louisa on the side was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that Qin Jiang was only slightly out of breath after waving for such a long time. How do you feel? He asked with a smile. What a weapon. If an ordinary warrior touches it, he will either die or be injured, that this is not a boast. With Qin Jiang's current strength, if he faced himself when he had reached the third level of Wu Qin Shi, he would be able to defeat him in less than 10 moves. If you have this bloody golden gun in your hand, one move may be enough to cause serious damage. Ha! Brother Qin's strength is extraordinary. This blood-flame golden gun weighs 140 kilograms, and only a master like the county lieutenant can wield it with his arms. Brother Qin can use this gun to this extent, which is already impressive. I'm ashamed. Louisa laughed. Come on, I've prepared some tea. Let's talk inside. Entering the room, the two sat opposite each other, and Louisa poured tea for Qin Jiang. Brother Qin, I invite you here this time, which is actually an entrustment. He said. Entrusted by others? Qin Jiang was a little confused. It's the county lieutenant. I will send this bloody flame golden gun to the county lieutenant's mansion in 3 days, and the county lieutenant also wants to use it to hold a banquet. Louisa said. What does that have to do with me? Qin Jiang asked. It doesn't matter. However, the county captain mentioned it yesterday and asked you to see the world. I can't help it. I can't refute the county captain's face. Louisa said. Qin Jiang nodded slightly. I thought it was something, no problem, I just want to go around the inner city, so it will save me some time if I go with you. In fact, he had always wanted to visit the antique shops in the inner city, but it was very troublesome for people from the outer city to enter the inner city, so he never had the chance. Now is the perfect opportunity to send a gun, and there is no need to make up any excuses. Louisa laughed when he heard this. He was afraid that Qin Jiang would be too lazy to go, and he would have a hard time explaining it to the county lieutenant. Now it seems that he was just overthinking. However, it seems that Brother Qin is not a child of a rich family, but just a talented person from the outside city. This is good. He really regards Qin Jiang as a friend. If the other party is a child of a rich family, it would be difficult to open up to him. After a while, Qin Jiang stood up. Brother Liu, there is a medicinal bath in the afternoon, so I won't stay any longer. Goodbye. Brother Qin, if you have time, please come here and sit for a long time. After leaving Lu's blacksmith shop, Qin Jiang searched again, but still didn't get anything. He had no choice but to go for a medicinal bath first. Brother Jiang, I haven't seen you for a few days. You look much stronger. Li Bo said with a smile. It's the growth period. If you eat more, you will naturally gain weight. Qin Jiang smiled. Li Bo heard the growth period, nodded silently, and then he remembered that Qin Jiang seemed to be underage. Thinking back to the past, when he was a man, he seemed to have just mastered the iron arm fist. Walking into the yard, seeing Qin Jiang's students, they couldn't help but look sideways. A few days ago, Qin Jiang felt that it was troublesome to go back and forth, so he moved a wooden stake back. After not seeing each other for a few days, they had no idea how far Qin Jiang had reached, because Qin Jiang's strength was improving too fast. Perhaps, it would take less than a month or two to break through to the second level, right? Knock, knock, walk to the front of the house and knock. The door opened, and Wang Minglang was copying the secret book of the iron arm fist. In the past few days, someone came to become a disciple, and the previous stock was not enough. Whatever, I'll take a medicinal bath after I finish writing this book. He said. After waiting for a while, Wang Minglang put down the pen in his hand and rubbed his eyes. I'm really old, my eyesight isn't good, you young people are better. Qin Jiang smiled. Uncle Wang, you're still strong, why do you admit you're old? Wang Minglang smiled and shook his head, lit up his pipe and took a puff. I have to admit I'm old, I've retired from the Red Tiger gang, isn't it just that I'm old and useless? At this point, his eyes were a little lonely, and after 2 seconds of silence, he laughed. Ha ha ha. Let's not talk about this, let's go, I'll give you a medicinal bath. Chapter 26 Breakthrough. The second level of Iron Arm Fist. You are listening at Novelful.audio. The two came to the West Room. This time, without waiting for Wang Minglang to remind him, Qin Jiang took off his shirt and jumped into the copper vat. After a set of procedures, it was already evening. Qin Jiang, who was sitting cross-legged in the copper vat, suddenly opened his eyes, the pores of his arms opened naturally, and the gushing internal energy formed vortices the size of fingernails in the copper vat. Wang Minglang, who was sitting next to him, changed his eyes slightly. Of course, he knew that Qin Jiang had made a breakthrough, but it's been less than half a month, right? In less than half a month, he broke through from the first level to the second level. Could it be that this medicinal bath can really make people change sharply? The fact that there was no such effect before was not because of the prescription, but because of the person. He carefully recalled the details of the medicinal bath he had just given Qin Jiang. It was no different from the past. If there was really a difference, it was that he didn't take a nap at noon today. Shaking his head, it definitely couldn't be because of this. Looking at Qin Jiang, it could only be that Qin Jiang himself was gifted, and perhaps he could absorb the medicinal power better. Walala. Qin Jiang jumped out, and the energy in the air burst out. Before he landed, the moisture on his body had evaporated. He looked a little surprised. He didn't expect that he could break through by himself. Looking at the panel. Current martial arts, Eternal 5 Qigong, first level, 30/250, Iron Arm Fist, second level, 22/300, Earth Dragon Body, first level, 19/200. Potential points, 6.8. Not only Iron Arm Fist has been upgraded to the second level, but even the Eternal 5 Qigong and Earth Dragon Body have been affected and improved. Feeling the changes in the body, the skin is thicker and tighter, and the surface seems to be covered with a thin film, showing a light silver-gray color. The internal energy in the body has also been greatly enhanced. If the internal energy in the body was as thick as chopsticks before, it has now reached the thickness of a finger. Both the quantity and strength are several times higher than before. Congratulations, you have reached the second level of Iron Arm Fist. With your sister's help, you can directly become a big boss of the Red Tiger Gang. Wang Minglang said with a smile. In the outer city, except for a few important places guarded by gang disciples at the level of deacons, most areas are under the charge of big bosses. It can be said that in the 4 districts of the outer city, the big boss is already considered a high-level gang. Uncle Wang, you are too kind. I am still far from it. Qin Jiang said with a smile. You kid, it's okay. Go back and rest if you have nothing to do. I also want to see how long it will take you to practice the third level of Iron Arm Fist. Wang Minglang knocked on the pipe and then said, by the way, you used to collect herbs for Dr. Baiyun, right? Do you often go to Dahe Mountain? Qin Jiang nodded. Yes, but not every day. Okay, don't go to Dahe Mountain recently. It's a bit uneasy there. Wang Minglang said. Qin Jiang frowned slightly. What do you mean by not peaceful? Wang Minglang filled a new pipe with tobacco and took a puff. Well, it involves the county lieutenant. In theory, only the leader of the Red Tiger Gang is qualified to know about this matter, but with your talent, you are sure to become the leader in the future, so it's nothing to tell you. This not peaceful actually refers to the danger of weirdness. Weird? Qin Jiang asked with some surprise. He suddenly realized that he didn't seem to understand this world. In addition to monsters, there are weird things. Yes, when you went to Dahe Mountain to collect herbs before, you should have encountered fog, right? Occasionally, you can see some black shadows appearing in the fog. Wang Minglang said. Qin Jiang recalled the fog he encountered on the day of his rebirth, and the humanoid black-haired monkey that still makes people feel a little creepy when he thinks about it. But isn't that a monster? He asked. Wang Minglang was stunned, and then nodded in understanding. Yes, some weird looks are similar to spirits or even humans. However, the most obvious sign of weirdness is the pair of eyes, which are dark and empty, like a whirlpool. Another thing is that when weirdness appears, it is often accompanied by weird fog. The thicker the fog, the stronger the weirdness is. Qin Jiang remembered that whether it was the black-haired monkey or the 2 fox spirits, they all had those empty eyes and were accompanied by fog. In other words, what he encountered was actually weirdness rather than spirits. No wonder applying garlic was useless. However, the weird fog that accompanied the appearance of the black-haired monkey was a little too thick, more than 100 times thicker than that of the fox spirit. He had walked through the gates of hell twice without knowing it. You have to be careful, weirdness is different from spirits. Spirits generally don't hurt people, but weirdness is not. Their behavior is unpredictable, and their ways of killing are also strange. Wang Minglang said. Qin Jiang nodded. Then how did this weirdness come about? Wang Minglang shook his head. The heaven and earth are full of resentment, and the weird fog is naturally formed. Under the influence of the weird fog, weirdness is born. Whenever weirdness appears, there is often a murder in this area, and the death is extremely miserable. Even if it is weirdness in the wild, it is mostly in mass graves, battlefields and other places. I heard that the Rong Kingdom and Xiong Kingdom, which border us, had a war. The two armies fought, with no less than 300,000 people, countless casualties, and an extremely powerful weirdness was born, which directly swallowed up the armies of the two countries. Of course, this is a rumor, and I don't know whether it is true or not. He took a puff of his pipe. If such a weirdness really existed, why would the countries fight each other? They would have been destroyed long ago. Qin Jiang also felt that the rumors were not true. It would swallow the armies of the two countries alive. Such a being would be difficult for even the gods in myths and legends to subdue. Shaking his head, he thought of the fox demon in the mine again. Does Uncle Wang know what demons and magic weapons are? Wang Minglang looked at Qin Jiang in surprise. How did you learn about these two names? That day when I went to Dahishan to collect medicine, I met two vixens, which must be weird now. In their illusion, there were two women who were controlled. They called the vixens fox demons, and the name of the crafty weapon was also learned from them. Qin Jiang said. He thought about it, but still didn't tell the old doctor about his old love interest. Wang Minglang understood clearly. I see, you have already encountered it. As he spoke, he put down his cigarette and said, the so-called monster actually refers to a spirit that has killed people. Ultimately, it is no different from a spirit. In fact, nowadays, few people distinguish between spirits and monsters. Whenever they see strange non-human intelligent creatures, they are directly classified as monsters. This is actually a kind of protection in disguise. If there are monsters pretending to be spirits, it will be a bit troublesome, so just identify them all as monsters. As for the strange weapons, I don't know much about them. I heard others say that they contain strange powers, but I have never seen them. However, as I expected, the two vixens you encountered should have been injured by this so-called trick weapon. After that, he couldn't resist the erosion of the strange power, and he slowly turned into a strange person. Speaking of this, he couldn't help but sneer. Even monsters deserve to die. I see. Qin Jiang sorted out the clues. Looking at it this way, it should be that the old love demon and the two fox demons were injured by the strange weapon at first. After that, the two fox demons could not withstand the strange force and became strange. The old love demon struggled to support himself until he was killed by him, so he said he had had enough. Well, the strange fog in Dahishan has appeared many times recently. However, there is no need to worry. The county captain has already gone to clean up the area. It won't be long before there is no serious problem. Wang Minglang said. In recent years, a lot of weird things have happened. Although they are becoming more and more serious, compared with them, these troubled times are still more difficult. In particular, Zhenzhou is adjacent to Huaigua and can be regarded as the front line of the war between the two countries. Naturally, everyone in the counties and cities under the rule is in danger and cannot protect themselves, so how can they consider anything else? In addition, the Xia kingdom is ruled by the sect and the royal family, so there are more than one or two who want to take advantage of the chaos to start a business. In such a big world, who doesn't want to get a piece of the pie? This is the root cause of the constant flow of refugees and the gradual chaos everywhere. Sighing, he said, Okay, come back if you have nothing to do. Old man, I have to rest early. Old man, old man. After leaving Wang Minglang's yard, Qin Jiang first went back to Shanmenlu to pretend that he had fallen asleep, and then put on his long-prepared night clothes and left quietly. Now that he has mastered the second level of Iron Arm Fist and is considered a master in the outer city, it's time to go to Yuan Li's house for a visit. Chapter 27, Strange Dharma Assembly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This time, Qin Jiang did not bring black water, because that would have made his features too obvious. However, to be on the safe side, he still brought a few smoke bombs and fire bombs. Walking in the night, his figure was always hidden in the shadows of the house. After a while, he came to a corner of the Li mansion and took out a map from his arms. This was bought from a person who delivered vegetables to the Li mansion some time ago when he was hiding his identity. After checking the map to determine the location, he exerted force on his feet. The moment his palm touched the top of the wall, he burst out with strength, and his body slid directly over the top of the wall and fell into the Li mansion. The whole process took no more than 2 seconds. After landing on the ground, he squatted down. This was behind a warehouse, overgrown with weeds, and the place he was going to was the courtyard that Li Songzheng prepared for the worship of Advanced Zhenwu. It was located inside the Li mansion and there were several other courtyards to go from here. Circulate the internal energy, control the activity of the body, reduce the sense of energy, and then stick your head out from the edge of the house. What he saw was a small courtyard full of weeds, with the gate closed and many firewood and haystacks piled up. The house next to him also looked very old, with spider webs all over the eaves. He relaxed slightly and walked to the gate of the small courtyard. A wisp of cold wind blew into the small courtyard through the gap of the door. Looking out through the gap of the wooden door, an iron rod was lying outside the door, which was obviously locked. Looking outside from close to the gap, 3 servants were patrolling with torches, and they all had long knives on their waists. Obviously, these people all had some martial arts skills. After waiting for a while, the patrol team came over here, and Qin Jiang retreated and hid behind a haystack. Click. The sound of the door lock flicking was very crisp in the night. The 3 people walked into the yard, did not close the door, and went straight to the front of the house and sat down. Each of them took out a cigarette and lit it, and started chatting. "Hey, have you gone to that yard to see? I don't know what kind of evil spirit has befallen the master. He has been praying and praying but nothing has changed." One of them just finished complaining when another covered his mouth. "Have you drunk too much? If the master hears this, be careful to break your legs." The servant whose mouth was covered nodded repeatedly. "Suck, I just said it casually. Besides, it's late at night and we are the only ones here. The master can't know." "Okay, Lao Lu, stop talking nonsense." The leading servant waved his hand and exhaled a puff of smoke. "You probably don't know, but I saw it with my own eyes," he said. "Oh my brotherly, don't say half of your words." Lao Lu asked hurriedly. Brotherly cleared his throat, took a big step, put his elbows on his knees, and leaned forward slightly. "I'm telling you, don't talk nonsense. Do you remember old Wang?" "Old Wang? Didn't he break his leg a few days ago and was sent back to the countryside?" asked old Lu. Brotherly raised his chin and laughed with a bit of arrogance. "Hey, you don't know. That day I followed the young master to that yard. Guess what I saw? Old Wang was there. The magician poured the magic liquid given by the goddess on his legs. Hey! Burnt and crispy, ba ba ba. It was cured on the spot. But our master is kind-hearted. Old Wang is old, so he gave him a sum of money to let him go back to his hometown in the countryside. So amazing. The broken leg was cured at the time." Old Lu was a little unconvinced. Injuries like broken arms and legs are quite difficult to treat. Not to mention being cured on the spot. Not only that. The young master also said that the magic liquid can not only cure diseases, but also make you stronger in that aspect. Brotherly laughed. Behind the haystack, Qin Jiang's eyes lit up slightly. Magic liquid? It sounds like a good thing, but he doesn't believe that it will have no side effects when used. The more you gain, the more you lose. The more beautiful it looks, the more cautious you should be. He glanced at the 3 people quietly and observed the outside of the courtyard at the same time. While the 3 people were knocking off the ashes, he suddenly exerted force on his feet and rushed out directly. After rushing out, he directly sank into the shadow of the house and headed towards the courtyard where the Huangtian goddess was worshipped. On the way, He avoided several groups of night watchmen and finally arrived at his destination. The gate of the courtyard was wide open, and bright flames came out of the courtyard. Climbing up the shadow of a house, Qin Jiang's eyes fell into the courtyard. There were at least a dozen torches inserted into the courtyard wall, which illuminated the courtyard very brightly. A tall three-legged two-eared round tripod was located in the center of the courtyard. The body of the tripod was made of brass, with a picture of a flying goddess carved on it. Inside, there were 3 huge incense sticks as thick as arms. Smoke wafted from the top, and the faint sandalwood fragrance was so penetrating that it could be smelled even from dozens of meters away. Seeing that there was no one in the yard, Qin Jiang quietly went around to the back of the yard and climbed in directly. Landing gently, he looked at the house. Only the room facing the bronze tripod was lit, and the rooms on the left and right were dark. He did not forget the purpose of coming here tonight. From the back of the house, he poked through the windows one by one to observe inside. Sure enough, one of the rooms was piled with many sacrificial utensils. Gently pushed open the window and climbed in, took off his gloves and put his hand on one of the bronze jars. Nothing. The next one, nothing, nothing, nothing. After touching more than a dozen in a row, finally, the familiar cold touch, a familiar prompt appeared in front of him. Potential points absorbed. 0.10.10.1. After a few breaths, the cold air flow disappeared, and he looked at the bottom of the panel. Potential points, 7.6. Slightly controlling the joy in his heart, he touched all the remaining tools, even the fake paintings used for decoration on the wall of the house. Potential points, 9.4. Looking at the potential points approaching the 10-point mark, he couldn't help showing a happy expression on his face. With so many potential points, he could directly upgrade the iron arm fist to the 3rd level. However, he was not in a hurry to add points, because he had not encountered any irresistible crisis for the time being, and it would only take less than a breath to add potential points. After looking at the room again and making sure that nothing was missed, he turned out of the house and gently closed the window. He came to the lighted room in the center and found a window on the edge to poke a small hole. Looking inside, a simple and somewhat desolate small temple came into view. He was on the left side of the temple, and could only see a few load-bearing pillars and half-beams on the left, with yellow cloth strips hanging on them. The rest was blocked by a huge statue. The statue was facing away from him, carved from stone, and his face could not be seen. Torches were placed on several load-bearing pillars, but they were not lit. Obviously, the light source was something else. He turned his eyes, but he could not see the situation in the temple clearly, and could only hear faint chanting. Carefully pushing open the window, a strange aroma came to his face. He quickly held his breath, and then felt that the aroma was somewhat familiar. Is this the smell of burning locust wood? Hudut. The night wind blew slightly, his eyes moved slightly, controlling his body not to make any noise, and slowly climbed into the house. Gently closing the window, the strange aroma became stronger. He was sure that this was the smell of burning locust wood. When I went to Dahe Mountain before, I had cut some locust wood as firewood. Walked to the edge of the statue and listened carefully to the situation in the house, but strangely, the chanting did not seem to be affected by the distance. And it was still subtle and almost inaudible. After a moment, he suddenly reacted. His pupils shrank slightly, and he did not hear any breathing. Startled, he quietly leaned out, and what caught his eye was a huge oil lamp hanging in the air, illuminating the house. Under the oil lamp, 2 rows of people in yellow robes were sitting cross-legged. They were the ones who sprinkled yellow paper on the street that day. Is this a ritual? These people were holding a string of prayer beads, with blood-red lines painted on their faces, their eyes closed, their heads bowed, and their expressions like the most devout believers. In front of them was a bronze statue of a woman less than 2 feet tall, which was the bronze statue of Huang Tian Shenmu that day. The mage in the bagua robe knelt in front of the bronze statue of Huang Tian Shenmu, holding a blood-stained dagger in his hand. In front of him, an old man with gray hair and beard lay horizontally, his upper body naked, and his left leg looked a little twisted. His stomach was cut open, blood and organs were all over the floor, and a blood-red lotus was cut out of the skin of his chest with a knife, which looked beautiful and seductive. It seemed that he had died long ago, but his turbid eyes were staring at the bronze statue of Huang Tian Shenmu, with a pious face and joy. Chapter 28, The Fiercely Songzheng. Please read on. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the strange scene in front of him, Qin Jiang's heart tightened a little. The first time he saw these guys on that street, he felt something was wrong, which made him feel inexplicably depressed. Today, this feeling of depression is more obvious. After waiting for a while, he found that these people showed no signs of activity, and they seemed to be really dead. Quietly walked around the door of the house and put his hand under the nose of a yellow-robed man at the back. He frowned slightly. No breath, really dead. The night wind blew in, bringing in the scent of sandalwood outside the door, blowing the yellow cloth hanging on the beams, and the surroundings were terribly quiet. He tried a few other people again, and the same was true. Retracting his hand, he also found that the blood-red lines on these people's faces were not pigments, but were simply painted with blood. The source of the blood might be the old man lying there. But the scene in front of him really made him a little confused. Was it a sacrifice? He looked up at the stone statue, and the huge stone body seemed to be pressing down. With a heavy sense of oppression, his sight fell on the bronze statue in front of the stone statue. After hesitating for a moment, he walked over and gently placed his hand on it. After a breath, he withdrew his hand, his eyes somewhat disappointed. There is no potential point. Perhaps it has just been absorbed once and has not yet condensed. Dingling. In the silent night, a crisp copper bell sounded. Qin Jiang's heart was shocked, and he hurriedly looked at the robed mage, but the bell was not made by the other party, and the other party still closed his eyes. Dingling. Another bell sounded. Qin Jiang looked up, and saw a copper bell hanging on the beam. It looked like the one in the robed mage's hand that day. Dingling. After 3 bells rang, Qin Jiang suddenly felt a palpitation. He quickly got up and hid behind the stone statue. After thinking about it, he still felt dangerous, so he turned out of the window and observed inside from the small opening he had just opened. After a while, there was a rustling sound, but his sight was blocked by the statue, so he could only see part of the area, and this part just happened to be unable to see the group of yellow-robed people. The sound of lighting torches rang out, and the room suddenly became brighter. And then he saw 2 shadows gradually approaching the pillar on the left side of the room. As the shadows gradually shrank on the pillar, the figures of the 2 people also appeared. Qin Jiang's pupils shrank slightly. In his sight, these were not 2 people, but 2 standing gray-haired mice wearing yellow robes. The sharp corners of his mouth twitched unconsciously, causing several whiskers to tremble together. The claw-like hands were raised, and the 2 torches were lit. After a sharp chirp, the 2 yellow-robed mice turned around and put their hands together, and the hair on their bodies gradually retreated, turning into human form. Bow. Goddess, give blessing. The familiar strange tone sounded, and the rat demon transformed into a human form knelt on the ground, constantly kneeling forward devoutly. Outside the window, Qin Jiang swallowed his saliva. Demons, definitely demons. And all of them are transformed demons. If calculated by strength, the transformed spirits or demons at least have the strength comparable to that of real warriors. Especially with the rat demon who disguised himself as a mage who didn't know the depth of the matter, it can be said that this group of rat demons can almost run rampant in the outer city. Tap tap tap. A burst of hurried footsteps came from outside the house, and a fat figure walked in quickly. It was Songzheng. Mage. How are the preparations? Songzheng spoke, his voice sounded a little shrill. Masterly, I have already worshipped the goddess. I only need to sacrifice 100 more living animals, and she will grant the medicine of resurrection. The mage has also transformed into a human form at this time, standing up and clasping his hands together. Songzheng frowned upon hearing this. He knew that the living animals the mage was talking about were not livestock, but people, living people. Mage, haven't you already sacrificed 50 people? Why do you want more? If too many people die at once, it will be very troublesome for me. It was already agreed before, but now the price is raised, and it is doubled, which makes him a little angry. He doesn't care about the 100 lives, but he thinks that this damn stinky rat dared to deceive him. However, he didn't get angry immediately, because he had seen the other party's magical elixir that could bring people back to life. If he wants to save his wife, he can't offend the other party for the time being. That's what I said before, but the mother goddess is not satisfied because the sacrifices here are too bad. If we can replace it with some warriors, maybe we don't need 100 people. Master Li can also not do it, but there is no need to mention the resurrection medicine. The mage looked indifferent, imitating the appearance of a hermit. Li Songzheng lowered his head, his eyes gloomy. Warriors. Big appetite. Even if they are not practicing Zhenwu, but just practicing some freehand martial arts, it is impossible to gather 100 of them. Ordinary grassroots people die, and no one cares anyway, but warriors are different. These people are the cornerstones of the various forces in Black Mountain City. It's nothing if 3 or 5 of them die, but more than 20 will definitely attract attention. At this time, he also understood that this is not a sacrifice for the goddess, but this stinky rat wants to eat people. He adjusted his expression and raised his head, smiling and saying, warriors are a little unrealistic, but ordinary people can still give it a try. The mage opened his eyes slightly and nodded slightly, yes. After that, he raised his hand and the copper bell on the beam made a crisp sound and flew into his palm. After catching the copper bell, he looked a little stunned, and turned his head to look behind the stone statue, which was exactly where Qin Jiang was. As if he had noticed the mage's gaze, Li Songzheng also reacted a little, looked at Qin Jiang's direction, and shouted angrily, "Who is it?" That the voice shook, and in a trance it was like an eagle's howl. He took a step, and a majestic force rose from his feet, and the fat on his body was shaken into a ripple shape by this force. Qin Jiang's eyes widened outside the window. What's going on? I was discovered. Ringing. It's that copper bell. He reacted instantly, because he had relaxed his vigilance because nothing happened during the 3 rings. There was no time to think about it, because in his sight, Li Songzheng's fat body had already attacked. There was no intention of dodging. Now he was already the 2nd level of Iron Arm Fist. How many people in the outer city could be his opponent? Ka! The fist burst out, directly smashing the window in front of him, and facing Li Songzheng head-on. Boom! An irresistible force came, shaking the surrounding air into a white wave. In an instant, he felt that all his bones were wailing. Bang! His body was hit hard and flew directly to the ground, creating a deep pit. Cough! Cough! He coughed up blood, and before he could wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, he mobilized all his blood and qi, because Li Songzheng had already arrived in front of him. Ouch! A sound like the howling of a divine eagle sounded, and in a trance, Qin Jiang seemed to see an eagle swooping down from the sky to hunt him. In an instant, his eyes slowly widened, with a hint of disbelief. How could it be so strong? He hastily raised his arms in front of him to block, and the next moment, the attack was already here. Crack! The sound of broken bones sounded, and his arms were hit hard on his chest, and he flew backwards like a kite with a broken string. In mid-air, he forced himself to lower his eyes and look at Li Songzheng. Potential. Add some points. Chapter 29 Advanced Zhenwu. Please read on, thank you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Jiang roared in his mind. This time, he didn't even summon the panel. Iron Arm Fist, 2nd level, 22/300, experience value plus 300. Iron Arm Fist, 2nd level, is upgraded to Iron Arm Fist, 3rd level. Iron Arm Fist, 3rd level, 22/400. Potential points, 6.4. A tingling sensation came from all over his body. His arms recovered in the blink of an eye, and then became more resilient. The fractures in his chest were also repaired quickly. His physical strength also improved. Although it was not as great as his arms, it was more than 50% stronger. In mid-air, Qin Jiang suddenly stretched out his left arm and inserted it into the ground. While plowing a shallow groove, he exerted force and his body suddenly drew an arc. Whoosh! Li Songzheng's figure crashed past him, leaving a human-shaped hole directly on the courtyard wall. It is conceivable how outrageous the force of this blow was. If he hits him, he might break a few more bones. Whoosh! Li Songzheng's figure returned, his arms spread out, his hands turned into eagle claws, and he pounced on Qin Jiang. Without any hesitation, Qin Jiang put his right hand into his pocket, took out a few fire bombs and threw them at Li Songzheng, and threw smoke bombs at his feet. Boom boom boom. A series of explosions sounded, and the flames spread with the gray fog. Li Songzheng's body was full of energy, and he dispersed the gray fog in a breath, but at this time, Qin Jiang's figure was gone, leaving only a few earth pits blown by fire bombs in the yard. Asshole! Come here. Find him for me, he shouted angrily, and the sound directly penetrated the courtyard wall. The servants and guards outside the courtyard immediately took action after hearing it. The mage also walked out at this time, his face calm, his eyes slightly narrowed. Masterly, do you need me to help? Just add another 20 sacrifices. Li Songzheng's eyelids twitched when he heard this, suppressing his anger. Not enough. Want more? No need. It's just a petty thief, we can catch him in no time. A moment later, a guard led a team of people into the yard. Li Songzheng's face was cold and a little angry. Where is the person? The leading guard shook his head. Master, I didn't find him. I searched the whole yard. Li Songzheng's face was stern when he heard this, and he took a long breath to calm down. I know, go down, let someone repair the wall tomorrow. Masterly, are you really not going to consider it? The mage said. Li Songzheng was about to leave, but stopped when he heard the mage's words. After thinking for a moment, Master, you can give it a try. If you can't find it, it doesn't count. He didn't know whether the man in black had seen the true form of the group of stinky rats. If he had, it wouldn't be a big problem, but it would still take some effort. The national war was about to start, and the monsters entering the city was nothing big. As for the sacrifice, it was just a few hundred lives of ordinary people. What was it? I don't know how many refugees died outside the city alone. Who would care? Of course. The master responded, and then shook the copper bell in his hand. Dingling, a crisp bell sounded, and an invisible wave dissipated. After a cup of tea, the master opened his eyes with some doubts. Li Songzheng sneered at this. I thought it was so powerful. In that case, I will take my leave. Turning around and leaving, a trace of murderous intent appeared in his eyes. A bunch of stinky rats, when you get the resurrection medicine, you will all die. The mage stood in place. Just at that moment, his bell sound had covered a radius of 500 meters. Is that little thief so good at running? The soil and rocks on the ground at the edge of the south city trembled slightly. After a few seconds, an arm turned out from under the soil, and then a man in black crawled out of the soil. Qin Jiang breathed a sigh of relief, with a trace of relaxation after surviving a disaster. After using the smoke bomb, he originally planned to climb over the wall and leave, but who knew that Li Songzheng's strength was so abnormal that he could disperse the smoke in the blink of an eye. Between life and death, he suddenly had a blessing in his heart. He directly activated the internal energy of the earth dragon in his flesh and blood and got into the earth pit blown up by the fire thunder. As soon as he entered the ground, he was like a fish in water. The soil did not cause any obstruction, but became his help, which allowed him to escape. It took him a quarter of an hour to adjust the restless internal energy in his body. He recalled that when he faced Li Songzheng just now, the feeling was completely different from that when he dealt with the two vixens that day. Although they were both life and death crises, he obviously felt that he could not match Li Songzheng, and the oppression he brought was definitely not comparable to that of the vixen. He shook his head slightly. He was too careless. After becoming a real warrior, his mentality changed and became a little inflated. However, he did not expect that this Li Yuanwei, who looked like a waste, actually had such a terrifying martial arts cultivation. With such strength, even if he practiced the third level of Iron Arm Fist, he would never be able to compete with it. There must be stronger martial arts above the Iron Arm Fist. He should have thought of it earlier. The red blood golden spear was so heavy that if he used it, he could only use it as a body training weapon, but County Lieutenant Long was able to use this to fight the enemy. The difference between them was huge. When he thought of this, an inexplicable irritation surged in his heart, and he clenched his fists slightly. Looking at the bright moon in the sky. I am still too weak. The next morning, Qin Jiang came to Wang Minglang's residence early. At this time, several people were already practicing in the yard. These days, they were also stimulated by Qin Jiang. They saw with their own eyes that a new disciple surpassed them step by step. Except for a few people, the rest of the enthusiasm for practicing martial arts was unprecedentedly high. Knock, knock. Qin Jiang knocked on Wang Minglang's wooden door, and a somewhat impatient voice came from inside, with a bit of fatigue. "Who is it?" "Uncle Wang, it's me." Qin Jiang replied. Creaked that the wooden door opened automatically. "Come in." Qin Jiang walked into the room and looked at the bed. He saw that Wang Minglang had just put on his coat and was holding a rope in his hand. The other end of the rope was connected to the wooden door. "Sit down, why are you here so early?" That Wang Minglang picked up the cigarette pipe on the bedside and lit it. After taking a puff, he felt much more energetic. He stood up and washed his face, and casually wiped the water stains on his face with his sleeve. After he sat down, Qin Jiang spoke. "Uncle Wang, is there a big gap in strength between warriors?" Wang Minglang looked at Qin Jiang in surprise. "Isn't this normal? Let's not talk about anything else. Among those who practice martial arts outside, who can withstand 3 punches and 5 kicks from you?" Qin Jiang shook his head. "What I mean is, after practicing the iron arm fist to the 3rd level, will there be someone who can crush me in all directions?" His voice was a little hurried, and there was a feeling of eagerness to know. Wang Minglang stopped smoking his pipe and put the pipe on the table, looking up and down at Qin Jiang with a smile. "Have you met?" Qin Jiang raised his eyebrows slightly and nodded heavily. Wang Minglang nodded slightly, as if he had expected it. "There are people who are stronger than the 3rd level of iron arm fist, and there are quite a few of them." He picked up his pipe and knocked it on the table, gently brushing off the ash. "The 5 animals exercises you have practiced, including some freehand fighting that most people practice, are actually some inferior stuff. Even iron arm fist can only be regarded as the most ordinary Zhenwu. Even if it is practiced to the 3rd level, it can only be regarded as a second-rate master at most. In the inner city, there are first-rate masters and even grandmasters, and there are no less than 20 or 30 people." Qin Jiang's eyes were shocked. 20 or 30 people? So many? Are there still 20 or 30 perverts like Li Songzheng? What martial arts do they practice? He asked hurriedly. Wang Minglang smiled. "Of course it is high-level Zhenwu. For example, the Red Tiger Fist of the Red Tiger Gang, the Crane Flame Palm of the County Magistrate's family, and some old families of the County Lieutenant and Black Mountain City, all have high-level Zhenwu at the bottom of the box." Chapter 30 Fearless Heart. Please read it, thank you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Jiang's eyes brightened slightly. "Is there a member of the Red Tiger Gang? In that case, he has a chance to get it." "Uncle Wang, what do you need to obtain high-level true martial arts? What is the difference between high-level true martial arts and ordinary true martial arts?" he asked. Wang Minglang raised his hand slightly when he heard this. "Don't be too ambitious. You have now reached the 2nd level of iron arm fist. In a while, your sister and I can recommend you to become the leader of the Red Tiger Gang. At that time, you will naturally have the opportunity to obtain the Red Tiger Fist. As for the difference, high-level Zhenwu has already reached the level of intention. Anyone who has practiced high-level true martial arts is a master in the realm of divine will. They can be said to be first-rate, and every one of them is a big shot in Black Mountain City." "Meaning? What is that?" Qin Jiang asked. "In the realm of divine will, you can tell by his name that he is extraordinary, and he is worthy of being a first-rate master. The so-called intention is actually a kind of power at the level of will. Sword practitioners have sword intention, sword practitioners have sword intention. Those who practice boxing like me naturally have fist intention." Wang Minglang said with a smile. Qin Jiang was slightly startled, remembering that when he met Wang Minglang for the first time, he seemed to see a red tiger in a trance. Now it seems that it was not an illusion, but the opponent's fist intention. Uncle Wang is also a master in the realm of divine will. He might be practicing Red Tiger Fist. Wang Minglang put down the pipe in his hand, put a hand on Qin Jiang's wrist, and said with a smile, "Xiao Jiang, what is a warrior?" Qin Jiang was stunned and looked confused. The so-called warrior means clenching fists. Only martial artists must fight. They are brave enough to fight fiercely and have a murderous intention. If you don't even have these 3 points of bad energy, you should simply practice. Wang Minglang's voice suddenly became stern, and his arms shook violently. Qin Jiang felt his body go numb, and then felt a weightless feeling. when he came to his senses, he had been thrown out of the house. The people practicing in the yard were a little confused and couldn't figure out the situation. Roar. Before he could stand still, Qin Jiang heard a roar in his ears, and then he felt a fierce aura suddenly erupt from the room. The next moment, Wang Minglang's figure appeared in front of him, with fierce eyes and a terrifying aura, like a flying tiger leaping over a stream. Tell me. What are you afraid of? Qin Jiang's eyes widened slightly, and he hurriedly punched back, but his fist was interrupted by a huge force less than halfway. Wang Minglang grabbed his arm with one hand, and the unbearable force pulled his body forward. Puff! A fist landed on his lower abdomen, and he felt that his internal organs were shattered, and he spit out a mouthful of blood. What? You don't even dare to resist. Then just go and die. Wang Minglang's voice rang in his ears, and Qin Jiang's eyes widened. He felt like he was in a mountain forest, encountering a tiger descending from the mountain, and life and death only happened in a moment. In an instant, the blood surged wildly, the heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and every part of the body was roaring, "We'll die. We'll die, we'll die, we'll die." His mind suddenly changed, from fear of death to rage that was not afraid of death. Want me to die? Kill. Put your feet on the ground, and the strength will rise from your feet. Spin around. Punch. He swung a punch that exceeded his own limits. Bang. With a muffled sound, Wang Minglang's fist was firmly caught. Qin Jiang's body went limp, he lost all strength and fell to the ground, but his eyes were very bright, with a hint of understanding. This feeling is like being blown by a cold wind when you are very drunk, only to suddenly realize that you have just been drunk. Since his rebirth, there has been an urgent pressure on his heart, making him desperately seek more security. Unknowingly, without even realizing it, his mind was gradually distorted and he became afraid of all uncertainties. It wasn't until this moment that he suddenly realized, when I put my palm on the blood that I just spit out, it doesn't feel warm, but with a hint of coolness. Shocking blood. If this blood stays in the body for a long time, you will never be able to practice the red tiger fist in your life. Wang Minglang spoke with a smile, his eyes satisfied but also a bit complicated. He directly grabbed Qin Jiang, brushed off the dust on his body, wiped the blood on his hands with a rag, and then patted his shoulder. Not bad, I still have the will to fight to the death. Qin Jiang stood there with clear eyes. The other students in the courtyard were a little confused. What happened? I boiled it. Brother Qin vomited blood. No. Master Wang is so fierce. Originally, they thought that although Wang Mingliang was a warrior, he was old after all and did not have much strength anymore, but now it seems that this is getting stronger with time. Brother Qin fell to the ground with just one punch. Okay, stop looking at it and practice hard. Maybe one day you can beat Qin Jiang too. Wang Mingliang shouted loudly, with a bit of power, and the students quickly started practicing after hearing this. It's impossible to beat Brother Qin violently, but if you think about it, it's still possible, right? No matter what happens, you can just beat up brothers Li Bo and Li Lang, right? Follow me into the house. The two came into the house. Wang Minglang rummaged in the cabinet in the corner for a moment and took out a black piece of glue the size of a thumb. He threw it to Qin Jiang casually. Eat it, it's for blood replenishment. I didn't expect you to have reached the 3rd level. Your cultivation talent is better than your sister. Wang Minglang's eyes were complicated. What kind of freaks were these two siblings? He was shocked by Qin Hong's little girl back then, and now he was surprised again by Xiao Nizi's brother. First I got started in one night, and now I jumped from the 2nd level to the 3rd level in one night. Qin Jiang caught it, looked at the dirty glue block in his hand, hesitated for a moment and ate it bravely. The glue block melted in his mouth, and a heat flow suddenly surged in his body, traveling around the sky along the path of the inner qi. He clearly felt that the inner qi was growing. After a while, the heat gradually disappeared, and the discomfort caused by the punch just now also disappeared. Looking at the panel. Current martial arts. 5 Qigong of Immortality, 1st level, 36/250, Iron Arm Fist, 3rd level, 72/400, Earth Dragon Body, 1st level, 28/200. Potential points, 3.8. The progress of Iron Arm Fist has increased by a full 50 points. The 5 Qigong of Immortality and Earth Dragon Body have also been improved. What is this? He asked curiously. If you can eat more, even if you don't rely on potential points, you can quickly practice Iron Arm Fist to perfection. Wang Minglang curled his lips after sitting down and took a puff from his big pipe. No, this is the best tiger glue. This piece is worth 30 taels. Qin Jiang lowered his head when he heard this. He knew that even if he gave the money, Uncle Wang would not take it. Thank you very much, Uncle Wang. If it weren't for Uncle Wang's punch, I'm afraid. Stop, whatever you say, I'm happy with it, no need for you to thank me. Wang Minglang interrupted Qin Jiang directly. Back then, when he first met Qin Hong, the little girl was still a handyman in a cloth shop. Later, he took Qin Hong to work in the yard. It can be said that he completely regarded her as his daughter. Later, when Qin Hong came of age, he single-handedly sent Qin Hong to the Red Tiger Gang. Later, the speed of Qin Hong's rise was simply unbelievable to him. After taking a puff from the pipe, he looked at Qin Jiang. If we say before, he still loved Qin Jiang because of Qin Hong. After so many days of contact, he actually regarded Qin Jiang as not a son, but a nephew. After saying that, Qin Jiang stopped talking, and Wang Minglang also smoked the big pipe silently. After a moment, Wang Minglang spoke slowly. Do you know where you are worse than your sister? Qin Jiang raised his eyes slightly when he heard this. Where's the difference? Although you are willing to fight to the death, you are not truly fearless. Wang Minglang said. Fearless heart. Qin Jiang didn't understand. Yes, your sister is the most talented person besides you that I have seen in so many years, but if you compare your own will, then you are far behind your sister. Your sister is truly fearless. How should I put it? She feels like nothing can stop her from moving forward. Wang Minglang said. Then how can I obtain this fearless heart? Qin Jiang asked. Wang Minglang curled his lips. Who do I know? Qin Jiang smiled helplessly, and Wang Minglang spoke again. However, although I don't know, I guess that if you want to be fearless, you must first have absolute confidence in yourself. You have to believe from the bottom of your heart that you can do everything you want to do. 2 days later, Qin Jiang was practicing iron arm boxing in the backyard of Shanmenlu. At this time, the wooden piles have been replaced by 4 iron piles. Not only practicing boxing, but also practicing footwork and leg skills. After practicing, he sat in the yard and meditated silently. Absolute confidence. Button, there was a knock on the door, and the waiter pushed open the wooden door of the restaurant and stuck his head out. Master Qin, the owner of Lu's blacksmith shop is looking for you.